Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to another edition of Kal's Corner Radio here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host, and the executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, as I say, usually at the top of every episode, this one's not going to be any different. The purpose of the show is to think critically and cover everything from politics to the paranormal. That's a lot of subjects. Tonight's going to be no exception. It's going to be a fast-paced show, I hope. Actually, I'm going to try to kick it down a gear and try to talk everything through, hopefully at a logical, comfortable pace here. I even have to set that for myself as I try to talk this through, because we are going to start with the subject of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or what some people call flying saucers. And we're going to update you real quickly on the Robert Kvyat lawsuit that was filed weeks ago against various parties, and some of those parties are involved and connected to, ironically, the History Channel upcoming series called Unidentified. We'll get to that in a moment. But as the reporter and on this show, and with Rob McConnell, it was an X-Zone investigation. Daily World newspaper, which I also write for, was also involved because, again, I'm connected to them. We did this investigation. It's still ongoing. It is not over until it's really going to be over. We will go wherever the truth goes. We will reveal and disclose it. So the latest update, because I've been asked by a lot of people, including a lot of media, I'm a fellow journalist here. I have over 10,000 articles to my credit, about a dozen books. They're available in different places. Upcoming book on Annie Jacobsen, exposing her, with Rob McConnell. I'll get to that in a moment. But back to Kvyat's lawsuit. Saturday, which is not far away, folks, today's Friday, May 24th, there will be an update because there will be new legal paperwork filed based on the documents that have been released so far. Because, again, there are some expiration time windows that are coming up. And one of the great things about courts and the court system is that it imposes a structured framework that forces parties that are engaged in it to try to get to the truth or settle their lawsuits or whatever the issues are, to try to, again, cut to the chase, if you will. This is much more better than an open-ended Facebook forum or something like that where anybody can get away with what they do. And, of course, nothing productive is done. But that's human nature. So an update will be out there for the public in the form of the next phase of the court documents, whatever they are. I don't have psychic powers. I'm not privy to them. But I promise you that as the journalist and as this show and X-Zone that has broken this as well, we will be the people who will update you on it, because Robert Kiviat, who has been on the shows and has given us the exclusives, will of course do what he's going to do and keep us informed and keep his promise, whatever that is. And we're waiting to see, because again, this is unprecedented. These people are going to be put under oath unless there is something comes out of left field that suddenly settles this thing. And that's never been done before. Imagine people that are connected to the UFO subject forced to answer questions under oath and penalty of perjury, as we have said from day one, because that's how the process works. That's much better than sitting down, doing an interview on, an Art Bell knockoff show. Come on, where you can just say whatever, nobody cares, no critical questions are asked. So there's kind of a convergence coming along, where as the History Channel starts to air this Unidentified Debacle series that is going to air on May 30th, where they're going to deceive you folks. I'm being very blunt here. This is not just entertainment. If it were just entertainment, I wouldn't have a problem with it, because, I believe in it. In fact, the series that we're doing with Rob McConnell, both X-Zone Investigates and one other show, which I can't give you the name of yet, but it is, I hope, going to be a very memorable production. And yes, UFOs are in it, as well as a lot of politicians and other things. It's not a politically correct show. What is going on is a bunch of stuff is coming to a head, and the History Channel is doing more than entertainment. We're doing what's called edutainment. Yes, we hope to entertain you, but also educate you and tell you the truth. So in one of the series we're doing, which we admitted, there's going to be fictional elements added to a story to make it interesting to people just outside a vertical UFO market or audience. But at the end of the day, by the end of that episode, you will really know if little gray leprechauns did really crash and were recovered near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, unlike the History Channel, which is still looking for Bigfoot or ghosts or whatever, and of course they'll never find them, for the only reason that matters: they don't exist. All right, so now the Unidentified series is going to air, and it started with the New York Times and that debacle article written by the three reporters. Leslie Kean was one of the reporters involved. She doesn't work for the New York Times. She's a pro-UFO researcher. She believes in the paranormal. Fine, but she has fallen for hoaxes. She has endorsed hoaxes. In fact, one of the videos she fell for was an insect on a lens. That takes special talent. I'm sorry, folks. She should have just admitted we don't know, as opposed to adding or coming up with some sort of Rorschach-type conclusion as a journalist reporting on this, that the imagery was really special when it was not. So as a lot of people have seen, millions of people around the world and countless media coverage, and it's going to continue because this episode is the first of 6 coming up on the History Channel. Again, it's called Unidentified. You have what has been described as this tic-tac UFO. It is banking to the left. The pilot is following it. We don't know who the pilot is. We are told when it was taken, but it's not connected to the Nimitz incident. They've been mixed together as if they're one depicts the other, which it does not. But of course, it's good for business if the myth continues that way. Well, that object has been identified. It will be exposed very soon. And don't be surprised, folks, if it gets rolled out in the form of, again, an official court document. And that's going to be very interesting, because if it goes in that form, in a structured format that involves, again, a court case, could be the one that's now underway. I don't have that information, otherwise I would tell you yet, one way or another. I promise you when I get it, one way or another, we will talk about it on this show. When that goes into the courts, this is going to change everything. Because if you look at the language that is being used by the promoters of this video, it is legally illegal. Let's be blunt. When you claim you've got evidence, scientific evidence of aliens, because you've got metals, whatever you want to call them, you've got metals from Zeta Ridiculus, who cares? Or whatever you want to call it, the Pleiades. Make up your story. You claim you've got real alien stuff, and you had special rooms created at taxpayer expense to house the stuff so it could be studied. And then you paid people like Jacques Vallée to design a database for all this stuff. It just stinks. It just stinks and smells. And I grew up respecting Jacques Vallée's work. I met Vallée. We had lunch together with Dr. Richard Haynes. I remember being given one of the Meyer metal UFO samples from Bill Moore, and I showed it to Dr. Marcel Vogel, and then of course I went ahead and showed it to Jacques Vallée. And it was funny when he was looking at it because he couldn't believe that this hunk of silver solder was actually being believed to be a piece of Pleiadian metal by Billy Meyer believers and nuts. And here we had a 4-page Swiss report from a laboratory in Switzerland. The name of that lab, the report is published and quoted from in my Meyer book. They had analyzed this stuff, 4 different Meyer metal samples, the same other halves of the samples that Marcel Vogel had supposedly analyzed that later disappeared conveniently when he said they were special, alien, didn't know how they could be manufactured by any technology on Earth. Then he goes to try to have his data replicated. Dick Haynes comes over, the sample mysteriously disappears. But what Vogel didn't know is that the other half had already been analyzed in Switzerland. I had the report. Wendell had originally published it in his own unpublished manuscript, which he later sanitized by the time the book UFO Pleiades, or Contact from the Pleiades, had come out. This was all proven in my book, Spaceships of the Pleiades, the Billy Meyer story. It's over 400 pages long, over 118 photos and images, many of which were never published until they were in this book. They came straight from Meyer, from the guy he entrusted his photo library to. They gave me his photos. Even Meyer's handwriting appears on the back of them. It was all in there exposed in 1995. And this is why this stuff here, now today, all this BS decades later, and everybody knows who follows this show and has followed thousands of my writings or reportings, or even a few, that I've been to 27 countries. I've reported from almost all of them over the years, nearly 20 years. And still 20 years later, this BS continues to a point where it's so pathetic that you have Tucker Carlson walking into UFO Festival. I understand he's not really trying to find the UFO truth, but nobody is calling out the facts here because the truth has yet to counterstrike back. Instead, it seems like everybody's going to roll over, let History Channel do its thing, maybe over 6 episodes, and then the same people who are behind this are going to lie about the Betty and Barney Hill case, which, by the way, is being exposed exclusively and definitively for the first time ever on this show and on X-Zone. I guarantee you, I've already given you a preview of that. It's coming out. We talked about it before. There is smoking gun documents dating back to the 1970s that prove that Stanton Friedman always knew that the fish interpretation was wrong, flawed. She did the best job she could at the time, but newer data showed she was wrong, but he refused to embrace that truth. He rejected it. Not only was I there in person handing him that information, because I'm the one who spent a year getting it, but we have the files. We'll be back after this break.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Welcome back to the second segment here on Cal's Corner Radio Show here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. All right, to wrap up UFOs, as I mentioned again, there is going to be more legal paperwork that will be available to the public regarding Robert Kvyat's lawsuit. We will know more then. I think there's going to be some more fireworks, one form or another, coming up this week. And, of course, on May 30th, you have the Unidentified series on the History Channel. Unfortunately, some of the stuff they're already hyping and promoting, including that gimbal UFO video, it is not what what they're claiming it is. And I just posted on the To the Stars Academy Facebook page, which I hope they don't kick me out of now. I've told them very politely but firmly that now that this has been solved, one of their poster child videos, their whole case is problematic, both from a legal and investor standpoint, because, folks, they have taken people's money. They promised them that they have exotic alien technologies. And they're not saying it's just entertainment. They're saying they have a technology, a science, and a research division. Well, if you say you're scientific and you're really researching, those are high bars that have legal consequences and standards that must be met, or you are fraud by legal definition, ethical definition, every credible definition that is out there. So you better not claim you've got this stuff when you don't. That is fraud. It is consumer fraud. And when you solicit people's money, even holding it in an escrow, it is fraud. If you falsely represent it, materially misrepresent it, that is what it's called. It's fraud. And let me explain one interesting aspect to the law. And you can look this up. There is actually a clause of the law that protects investors called the affinity clause. And here's how it works, folks. Let's say that you're a senior citizen. You might be vulnerable to investor scams because mentally maybe you're not still all there. Maybe you've got your money saved away in some individual account. So if that scam artist gets their hands on that one nest egg you have, what little you have, you're hosed for life. People who are senior citizens, religious groups, people who believe in the paranormal, vertical market type niches, they're all covered under the Affinity Act. That would include To the Stars Academy and people who believe in UFOs and the paranormal. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now, because it's not about Tom DeLonge. There is no real big formal disclosure going on. That is more nonsense. And we know that what Harry Reid did with Bigelow and Putoff, who is involved, of course, in the To the Stars Academy thing as well. We've got contradictions with Lou Elizondo, what he is saying. Folks, this whole thing stinks. And if you think it's not going to be investigated to the end and ultimately exposed, you couldn't be more wrong. There's too many people looking at this now. The one question that does remain, because nobody can psychically predict what's going to happen is how much will the mainstream media start doing their job? You know, being a longtime media person myself, I've never seen it so pathetic in trying to talk to different media people about this. It seems like nobody wants to touch it until after the Roswell anniversary is over, and then they're going to look at the ratings, see how that did, and if it didn't quite meet the expectations of that, well, then there's even less interest post-Roswell. Yes, folks, the United States and modern Western culture, led by the U.S., number 2 by Great Britain, at least where it concerns UFOs and the paranormal on social media, internet, which is all that counts ultimately, we have become an anniversary society. I could call up, CNN today. I've been on there before, discussing the solution to Kennedy's assassination. Special anniversary show on Larry King. I did it. Matter of historical record. But guess what happened 10 years later? I'm talking to Larry King, again, his people. And Nellie Connolly is coming on. And I'm talking to the producers and I'm saying, well, what's she going to say? Well, she's going to say that there were 2 shooters. Okay, well, where's her proof? And she says, well, I was inside that car. That's how I know. Oh, okay, well, that proves it scientifically. No, it doesn't. And are you aware, Junior, who wasn't there 10 years earlier, that you had already said you solved this 10 years earlier? You explained how it happened with the lapel flipping up, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it was one bullet that went through both Kennedy and Governor Connolly. There's another show we did of Cal's Corner here where you can Google it on the archives where you can listen and follow how exactly Kennedy was killed. It is an open and shut case. So they told me that the reason they were putting her on that show was it didn't matter what she said. Now remember, she had just made the decision not to have her husband's body exhumed, to remove the tiny fragments that remained of the bullet to settle the issue of had it come from Oswald's rifle. She refused to go there because she wanted to keep the myth alive. She actually said that the real target was her husband, not Kennedy. Wow, you can't make that stuff up. So because she was in the final stretch of her life, her health was failing. This was her last book, her last hurrah. She made the media tour. CNN treated her with kid gloves, and they further fueled the conspiracy. And on the very same show that I was on a special anniversary edition, where I debated and defeated Gaten Fonzie, who was the head investigator, the chief investigator of the former House Select Committee on Assassinations, who concluded that there had been a conspiracy to murder Kennedy, most likely by the media, that the grassy knoll assassin had fired a pistol but missed. Ridiculous. That's even more problematic than another sniper rifle, but that's what they concluded. It's been totally destroyed. You can watch the debate yourself. Even Larry King took my side. Okay, case closed, right? No, CNN furthered the conspiracy years later, and it continues this day, and it's gone downhill from there on many different subjects. Now you've got this Tic Tac thing, and you've got the stuff by To the Stars Academy. But if you think there is not going to be some sort of pushback of truth, you're wrong. It's not only this show, it is other journalists. I've been in touch with them. I've received a lot of contacts from them. Even Kiviat has. People are looking at this critically. They're starting to. But again, the question remains, what will the mainstream media do? This is going to be a litmus test because you have a book coming out on June 7th that nails Annie Jacobsen, exposes her book, her false claims, where it concerns this Roswell issue being created by Stalin, working with the angel of death, Dr. Joseph Mengele. I'm not even going to go into those details in the show. That's going to be for an upcoming episode shortly. But on June 7th, that goes down. Later this year, soon, Bob Lazar, same thing. I worked at KMI. I'm the only researcher who did. I can prove I did. I just got my papers from Social Security, which prove I did. And I can share with you what happened to me when I went public with the news on UFOs. Again, it's not on the internet, just like the documents with Stanton Friedman. Again, speaking of Friedman, the Hill case goes down very soon too. That project has been in the works for years. You will actually see footage from the movie, The Zeta Reticuli Conspiracy, which we started filming in India. Rob McConnell knows about it. A small circle has known about it. I have even posted frames here and there. We'll get into all of that as part of the upcoming expose of the Hill case. And what's going on with the unidentified series, folks, is that some of the same people who are trying to push these myths on you, only it's the Tic Tac case tomorrow. In another production, it'll be Roswell, myth all over again. And I'm the author of the best-selling Roswell expose of all time. So excuse me if I'm not going to stand by and let this BS continue. I'm sorry. If I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it. I would have no problem saying, it wasn't Project Mogul. Damn, it was aliens after all. Spank me. I'd be happy to say that. I'd drop my britches and say, go for it. I don't care. What I would care is that we found the truth. And remember, I'm one of the 4 Roswell researchers. It is Stanton Friedman, Bill Moore. There is a mutual colleague that everybody knows who is number 3, and I am number 4. We all know each other. We have the documents from the 70s, including the Smoking Gun Papers, which will be published for the first time, that prove that Stanton Friedman always knew that the fish star map was not valid. Again, he knew that by the time I was lecturing with him in the late 1970s. The media captured these incredible quotes and predictions from him, which if he saw today, he would be hard pressed. He can't say he didn't say it. It's all on there. It's all coming out. Case closed. So all this stuff is coming out, being lined up, and since a lot of these guys are interconnected, of course, a lot of dominoes are going to fall. At least they have to, because they're interconnected. And they're more examples of a simple concept, a universal truism, that life is indeed one big relational database. Now, let's get off those subjects. The rest of the show, we're going to talk about some global stuff. India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been reelected in a landslide. His majority grows even more, making a mockery of the Gandhi Party. They deserve it. India's the best leader is Modi. He is helping the country. What is wrong, however, is the Hindu nationalist mindset. We will talk about that and actual people who will kill you if you dare to eat a hamburger made of beef. Yes, there are beef vigilante groups. Or you get 7 years in prison if you dare to have a double Whopper with cheese, no onions, as long as you got beef there. Believe me, we'll talk about that from firsthand experience. We'll be back after this break.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by L.A. Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, They conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Welcome back to the third segment here on Kal's Corner Radio, here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff, and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, before the break, we were starting to bring up the subject of the country of India. Let's continue that now, and I'm going to share with you some personal firsthand experiences because, again, I moved to India in 2011. All right, now, in India, there's 29 states, so they don't have 50 like America does. Fine. To give you an idea of how big India is the size of the European Union, okay? So all the EU can fit in size of India. About 2.5 Indias, I believe, equal the United States. So it's not as big as, America, of course. Canada's bigger, much wider, but India is a country that you just can't go across in 5 hours unless you're flying. Now, in the 29 states, in 23 of them, it is against the law to eat beef, okay? If you do, you can face a prison term of up to 7 years. I can tell you that having driven Uber, going to the Daily Post and Daily World newspapers every day, where I've written and been a bureau chief and all kinds of things for many years, thousands of articles written and published. They're a matter of public record. You can still get them on the internet, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I remember one time, for example, I was in an Uber car and there was a cow on the road in the way. And that's very common because the cows have the right of way in India. They're all over the place. It doesn't matter where you are. They romp around with impunity and nobody bothers them. They just leave them alone, or people feed them, and of course that makes matters worse because everybody's an expert on cows, right? So in addition to the filth and the other stuff inherent in that kind of thing, what happened is the cow turned his head and the horn hit the side of the left rearview mirror. So what happens is the taxi driver pulls over, and this was one of those drivers who understood English, which means they just say yes to everything you say. So what I used to do is prank some of the cab drivers. I'd be friendly, because I like people more than I don't, believe me. And then when I find out that they say yes to everything, they really don't understand you, I'll say things like, can I date your sister? And they'll say yes. And I say all kinds of questions, and they're saying yes to everything. And they don't know what's going on, so it's kind of fun. It makes the ride to the office shorter. So what happens is they pull over and he starts bawling his head off because this cow has been hit. Now, the cow's perfectly fine. In fact, the cow's looking at him expecting, like, I don't know, a payoff in hay. I don't know. He's just looking at him chewing his cud. And there's nothing there. I mean, there's no food in his mouth or anything, but the cow's fine. And yeah, his horn was clipped a little bit, but now this guy thinks he's going to go to hell or be reincarnated as a whatever. I don't know. I couldn't understand. I wanted to ask him. And I told him, I said, don't worry, the cow's okay. So we get in the car and we continue. There was another time where, because where I used to live at first in Chandigarh, the cows love to go for their walks in the evening. And of course, there's dark cows there, and the streets are not very well lit. And Indians have this terrible habit of riding around with no reflectors on their bikes. And most of them are dark-skinned individuals, and the dark roads are not lit because they're dark because they're not lit. So this is a combination of things that are just accidents waiting to happen. You see them all the time. And so I remember being in a little tuk-tuk, a little rickshaw, going through a roundabout, full speed, about 45 miles an hour. And if the cow's head was not narrow, if it was round instead of flat, and if the cow could turn one way and thankfully just miss this tuk-tuk, this cow's nose and everything would have been in there, and I don't know what would have happened. Maybe the whole thing would have tipped over. It was such a close call. It was scary. And they just go through like nothing happened. And we had so many close calls with cows. It was ridiculous. It was actually worse. It was like parts of Oregon in some of the mountain roads at night where you have to be very careful about deer. Only in Ludhiana and Delhi and things like that, and much of India, the cows, again, roam with impunity, and nobody does anything or cares. If this were Texas, somebody would say, hey, that's food for a year, but in India, it is 7 years in prison. So in India, up in Ludhiana and in Chandigarh, especially in Ludhiana, I went to underground alcohol and beef eating clubs because, like prohibition, you had to go underground to have this stuff because you couldn't get it anywhere. What happened is McDonald's had carried a beef Big Mac hamburger, and they accidentally served a beef burger to a Hindu gentleman. And of course, he freaked out when he ate it and sued, won a lot of money, and beef was banned in the whole country. And that's just the way it was. So, as I've told my friends, and I even posted on Facebook, because I missed it. I hadn't been out of India for several years. When I finally went abroad to the Middle East, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, first place I went to was Burger King. And I had a double Whopper with cheese, no onions, filmed it on my iPhone, put it on Facebook, and dedicated it to my Indian friends. Now, I must tell you that the younger generation of Indians, they're cool with beef. They understand that an animal is an animal, okay? They even understand the idea that humans are, they're not really vegetarians, they're omnivores. Now think about this, for all you pro-vegetarian unicorn types. Human beings have eyes in the front of their heads, okay? So if you're a vegetarian, your eyes are still in the front of your head, okay? Your mouth moves up and down, not side to side. So it's designed to eat meat and tear it, okay? And thankfully, you've got eyes in the front of your head, which means you can hunt and find things, including in the grocery store. And that means that millions of years ago, you could find things and kill them and eat them if you wanted to survive, because you learned how to sharpen sticks and kill things with them. These are called tools and weapons, okay? Now, when you look at prey, they have eyes that are on the sides of their heads as a rule. Are the eyes of cows on the sides of their head or the front? They're on the sides. Same with goats, same with chickens. Can you imagine how hard it would be to see as a human being if you had eyes on the sides of your head? You would have a hard time running straight forward. So cows were not designed to hunt other animals. But cheetahs and lions, they got eyes in the front of their head. So do some of the meanest badass snakes out there, okay? So there's a pattern to nature. Eyes go in certain places because animals eat certain things. And what they eat is often a big clue based on where their eyes are. So don't tell me with a straight face that you're a human with eyes in the front of your head and you're not a predator. No. Even if you're just hunting for vegetables, you're still a predator. And like one vegetarian genius told me in India, just happened to be there, I asked her one time, I said, why don't you eat eggs? Well, because I don't want to eat a chicken. Oh, really? An unfertilized egg has a chicken in it. Oh, man, I just can't believe this. But, I guess science wasn't her strong point. It's not just her. I'm not picking on her, but I heard this countless times, and it's ridiculous. Here's another simple question. Complete amino acids. They come from living things, okay? that, like chickens and eggs, you can't get them from plants. It's not possible. So many vegetarians tell me, oh, I supplement. Well, any diet where you have to supplement is not a healthy diet. Are you that lack of a critical thinker? Hello, you admit that, yeah, if I have to supplement, I'm missing something. That's the point of a supplement. Okay, to fill a hole or to add more. In this case, they're filling a hole. It's like people who say, I'm going to eat some carrots to improve my eyes. Yeah, they're loaded in vitamin A, duh. But do you know how many tons of carrots you'd have to eat in your life to where your eyes would even be affected? And then by then you'd be dead by overdosing on vitamin A? Nobody does the math here because they're selling a bunch of hooey. So guess what, folks? Walmart is getting sued because they've been selling homeopathy medicine, which doesn't work because it's homeopathy. And now they have to pay money because they can't defend it in court. I predict a settlement. If they put the issue and the products on trial and say, yeah, it really got rid of Johnny's headache when it's so diluted it couldn't do anything, well, they're going to lose that case. But hey, like the Pandolfi thing, the Kvyat thing, all that stuff, it's good to put it under oath. All right, so enough about India and all that. Let's talk about Europe, Brexit. Theresa May is no longer the prime minister. That was predictable. It was also predictable, and I've written about this in full-page specials in Daily World newspaper, that the other side was sabotaging this from day one because they wanted to eventually be the party that was in power that could say, we delivered Brexit, because they're pro-Brexit, okay? Now, people talk about how dysfunctional the Democrats and Republicans are, and yes, they are. Those parties shouldn't even be in power as far as I'm concerned. They're not doing the job that the American people have elected them to do. Shame on them. They are unworthy of being in power, again, in my opinion. But in Great Britain, it's just as bad. Between Labour and the Conservative Party, they refuse to put the good of the British people first. Just like, Nixon, even though when he was being investigated, he still largely did his job. So did even Bill Clinton, and you've got two extreme examples there for two very different issues. But Trump, no, I'm not going to do anything about infrastructure until they stop investigating me. Hey, Mr. Innocent, do your job, focus. Let them play twist in the wind, whatever, because at the end of the day, nothing still means nothing. They have to prove it. They can't. So let it go. Let them twist in the wind. And if they're still investigating by the time the election comes around, at least people can say, well, Trump was doing his job and ignoring this, and they were investigating, and therefore they ain't getting my vote. That's the way you handle this, Mr. Trump. Please show some leadership. All right, we'll be back after this break, and then we'll talk about Trump, Pelosi real quickly, North Korea, China, and Iran. We'll be back.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Christopher Fulton is a survivor of the national security state. All he wanted to do was preserve history when he acquired a Cartier watch from the estate of President Kennedy's personal secretary. But that simple act set off a terrible chain reaction. He was pursued by the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI, thrust into the middle of the U.S. government's Assassination Records Review Board, even monitored and pursued by the Russian government. All because that Cartier watch was the missing link of evidence, a timepiece worn by JFK that fateful day in Dallas, a link resulting in Christopher being incarcerated and attacked for 9 years because he opened a hidden chapter in history. The intriguing journey outlined fully in Christopher Fulton's memoir, The Inheritance, is available now through TrineDay.com or Amazon.com. The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination by Christopher and Michelle Fulton is a must-read, an incredible tale of how easily our own government can overrule justice. The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination.
All right, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on Kal's Corner Radio Show. Again, my name is Kal Korff. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell, and of course, I'm your host. All right, we're talking about India. Let's move to another subject now. Now let's switch to President Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi. Folks, it's obvious that these two politicians are not the best of friends. To be blunt, I can't stand Nancy Pelosi. I think she's part of what's very wrong with the Democratic National Party. We must remember that under her wonderful leadership, you had candidates like Hillary Clinton, and the Democrats are so talented that they lost all of their power. They're the weakest they had been the weakest until the prior election since the Civil War. You know, that's a long time. Do the math. Civil War was in the 1860s. Duh, hello. And the Democrats became irrelevant. In fact, they lost over 30 of the 50 governorships. So the Republicans, with a minority and a conservative minority, which is a subset of a minority, they control all the marbles. It's that screwed up. So you have tyranny of the minority, and then you have a polarized country. You know, let's say that Hillary had won the election, all right? Let's say that every reason she made up that she lost wasn't true or is true, and she actually won. Well, the country would still be divided because about half the country wanted Trump. So it doesn't matter whether it was Gore or Bush again. What has happened is the country is divided. So it doesn't matter what country it is. Whenever you have a 50-50 election, you automatically have an inherent dynamic known as division. And it's up to the other side who lost and the side who won to reach out to each other and try to find common ground for the good of the country to try to move things forward. It does mean doing things that you prefer were done differently. And then it's a question of how far you're willing to compromise on that to move the best interests of the nation forward. And that's what's missing today in much of the world. Now, having said that, you have an issue where there's an election coming up, and it's really the opposite of the previous presidential election. You have to remember that the Republicans ran about 24 major candidates, and Trump won. He beat the nearest competitor, Ted Cruz, by about a margin of 2-1. He really kicked their butts, let's be blunt about it. Now, on the Democratic side, Hillary won, but she cheated. Maybe if she didn't cheat, she might not have won. The entire Democratic Party was in bed with her. She spent about $2.2 billion. About 200 million of that went to grease the palms of superdelegates. In other words, she already had hundreds of delegates given to her, superdelegates, pledged to her before the first caucus began in Iowa. You know, imagine you're going to go for the gold medal, you know, to be representing your party, so to speak. And, you know, you need X number of delegate votes, fine. You know, that number's the same for everybody. You got to earn them. But hey, here's a few hundred right to start you off with. Okay? And we're going to give you so many of them that no matter who your opponent is, unless he wins like 90% of the rest of the votes in all the states, he has no chance. That's how they stacked it. And then we know that they cheated and did it in such a way where the head of the party, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, had to resign on the evening of their coronating Hillary. When she's receiving the nomination, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was nowhere to be seen on stage. She resigned in disgrace, and she was head of the party because she got busted. And yet, you know, the Democrats are back. They've learned nothing. And I'm happy they're going after things like tax returns. I think that's valid. But where there's no collusion, or where Trump has said, we're going to declassify what the intelligence agencies did, I support that, because as a taxpayer, I want to know. Because I know for a fact, and I'm not the only one, I didn't discover this, I've reported on it, that the Obama administration did play games. I have published articles proving that they did spy on the Trump campaign. In fact, my upcoming book, after some of this UFO stuff is out of the way and exposed, got to time it. Now that the Mueller report is out, my book on Trump, called How Obama and the other agencies spied on the Trump candidates and others, is coming out, and it's all in there. I couldn't finish it until the Mueller report was out. Mueller may or may not testify, but these documents will be interesting because they will show that there was collusion on the other side. And let me kind of briefly prove it here, because something very interesting has happened. Now, imagine this. You are Hillary Clinton. You're running against Trump. It doesn't matter who you're running against. You want to be president. You're one of two candidates. Now you find out you're going to pay a firm who knows guys in the Kremlin in Russia who can get you dirt on your opponent. Of course, that's called opposition research. So you're not colluding with the Russians, right? The Russians know that this is coming, this information is going to a British intelligence agent. And he knows that this is going back to politicians, to the Democrats, to people who hate Trump, to the Clinton campaign, because the checks are coming through a company from Clinton's law office, her attorneys that represent her. There's a trail that's not even attempting to be hid. And yes, the Republicans started that project. And then when they found nothing or changed their mind, whatever, ask them, the Clintons picked up that ball, paid their lawyers to do it. It was about $12 million or something like that. And the rest is history. And a false flag, because that is collusion. When you get together with somebody and agree to do something, you are conspiring, you are colluding. Look it up. They're synonyms. Duh, hello. But today, where you've got things like, transhumans who are by definition beyond human, even though they're human, and now you have Nancy Pelosi championing a new amendment to the Civil Rights Act, folks, that says your gender identity, not your real gender, but what you think you are, for whatever reason, on whatever day and according to the stars, and what psychic told you to feel whatever, doesn't matter whether you had any medical procedures or not. You're just in a mood to be a Japanese whatever today, samurai, I guess. Well, now I get to participate in the Japanese female samurai games because I'm a female. And after I get that gold medal, even though I'm a male and I use my strength to beat them, now I'm suddenly a male and I can go compete in the Japanese male samurai games. So this type of thinking is dangerous because it's not grounded in critical thinking. It's not grounded in reality, but it is the epitome of people like Nancy Pelosi. And as I have discussed before, because I'm going to keep bringing this up, because a lot of people just don't know this about Pelosi. You're not going to hear this from Wolf Blitzer on CNN or, Anderson Cooper. No. The Pelosis are just as corrupt as some of the people they're targeting, including the Trumps, meaning, view the history. You had Pat Brown. He was the governor of California. His Jesuit priest-loving son, Jerry, was forced into politics the same way that John Kennedy Jr. was forced after Joseph was killed in World War II by his father into politics. So Jerry Brown becomes governor. In the meantime, there was Newsom in there. He was given Squaw Valley area, beautiful set of mountains for a song in exchange for economic development. And then, of course, the Getty family is in there. And then, of course, the Pelosis marry into the Newsoms, their son. And then, of course, Jerry Brown becomes the governor. And his lieutenant governor, his right-hand guy, is Newsom's son. And they're both on the boards of the Getty Foundation. Gee, what a series of amazing coincidences. These four families control what is essentially blue, left-wing, la-la, supermajority, Democratic progressive California today. Yes, folks, where you dare have a plastic straw and it's a $1,000 fine, baby. I see Americans in Nevada or wherever, they've got other states, they've got these straws. And I tell them there's 80 straws in there. Don't dare take it to California. That's an $80,000 fine, because it can be. If you are a waitress in California and you dare to give a customer who doesn't ask for it a plastic straw, assuming you can get one, it's a $1,000 fine. Folks, don't fall for that stupidity. Yes, it's good to try to get plastics out of the ocean. Yes, I support that. But you know, most of the world lives in Asia. And I got news for you. With India having 8 of the 10 most polluted cities on this planet, even though they're a signatory to the Paris Accord. So you can imagine how things would be worse if they weren't. Don't tell me about global warming and trying to clean up the environment, because until Asia is serious about plastic straws, that includes China too, that's nearly 3 billion people out of over 7, do the math. There doesn't matter what San Francisco does, okay? It doesn't matter. It's a rounding error. Every little bit helps, but not when it's a whole, not even a whole number. So that's how ridiculous things are. Now, we're going to wrap this up real quickly with North Korea and China. North Korea said there's not going to be any progress now on peace until Trump changes his mind. Well, since North Korea doesn't want peace, and China doesn't want North Korea to make any peace ever, independent of the trade wars, and especially when the trade wars are going on, don't lose any sleep over it. Nothing has changed. And as I proved in the recent special in Daily World newspaper a few days ago, last Sunday, the UN Security Council has published a report proving that the biggest violators of smuggling are Russia and China with North Korea. And they're on the UN Security Council. So guess what happens if the UN dares to try to get a resolution passed to punish these bad boys? Nothing, because they'll veto it. They have veto power. So the system is broken, folks. There's no point in even bothering. In fact, key parts of the UN, they might as well just not exist, because it's worse than a black hole. At least you know what the hell happens when crap goes in a black hole. That's not the case with the UN. Now, let's finish it off with Iran. Ooh, things are ratcheting up there. Yeah, there's pressure games on both sides. We'll see what happens. But, you know, at the end of the day, Iran is going to continue to sponsor terrorism, and like they just did, they just busted a bunch of people for wearing yoga outfits because they were obscene, even though they were practicing yoga. That's the kind of stupidity they have in Iran. We'll be back next week for another show. Thanks for joining me.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real.
Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.